Hello, everyone. I'm Malchijah Hoskins, an outreach intern here at the Film Forum. And today we're going to have a conversation with two absolutely amazing creators and filmmakers, twin brothers, Arie and Chuko Esiri. Their stunning directorial debut, EYIMOFE, This Is My Desire, set in colorful, chaotic Lagos, the former Nigerian capital, is now playing at Film Forum. Not unlike many working-class Americans, EYIMOFE's two main characters, Rosa and Mofe, are just one piece of bad news away from a fall into poverty. Both are scrambling to overcome Kafkaesque obstacles placed in the way of obtaining passports to leave Nigeria for Europe. The film has been played in over 20 countries, including the BFI London, AFI, Sao Paulo, and Vancouver film festivals, and the Seattle International Film Festival, where it won New Director's Grand Jury Prize. Hello, and I just want to thank you both for making the time to come here and to have this conversation. I love the movie, and it resonated really deeply with me, and I wanted to know how are you both doing today?
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for your very kind words about the film as well. Today I am good. I'm in Lagos, so we're separated by the ocean, myself and Arie. So we're 5:30 over here. So happy hour right after this.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. I'm in New York, so I'm a bit frazzled because the film is coming out tomorrow, and there's a lot happening. There's a lot I'm sort of trying to keep up with. It's wonderful to be this busy with the film and intimidating at the same time. So.
With all of the exposure and reception your film is getting, I kind of want to ask a meta question about what has this process been like for both of you?
It's the word I feel I've used so much, but it's just surreal. And I find myself just not quite believing, not quite believing all the good fortune we've had, and not quite believing that it reached and touched so many different people. And then you throw the pandemic on top of that, and then you're not really too sure if anything is real or if anything's real. But it's just that really, I just find it surreal, and I'm honestly just full of gratitude, really. And that's the experience has been one like that. It's just, you have a dream and it sort of comes true, and it's it's overwhelming.
I think I share similar sentiments. It's very much a continual pinch yourself moment. Forever that. But I think ultimately just having the fact that it's reached as many people in different places has just solidified my beliefs that we are all experiencing the same things in life. I don't know, as Chuko likes to say, humanity is banal. And I've been very encouraged by that. I think sort of like the individuals that reach out to you on Instagram or sometimes email just to tell you what the film has done for them or how it resonated with them is always great to hear. Someone in Los Angeles just messaged to say that they were moving to Europe to study, and they just found all of the anxieties in the film about heading into uncharted territory for themselves and changing their lives. And I don't know, it's things like that I find very encouraging, and makes the whole thing worthwhile.
Did you go in thinking that it would have this type of response?
Well, I mean, definitely didn't go and think it would have this sort of response. But I mean, that's more from a point of not really thinking so much about what comes afterwards. I think with every creative endeavor, there's something within you that you want to share you want to share with the world, and the priority is trying to order and organize it and express it in the way that you feel it as best as you can. So that was really the priority of it all. It was just trying as much as possible to convey all these different things and all these different elements of, living in Nigeria and being in constant dialogue with the country and with yourself. And it was just really about trying to exercise that in a way. And that's what we went in attempting to do.
Thank you for naming that. I loved how you used the word like making it a priority, and that organicness and honesty and realness is definitely so evident throughout the movie. I wanted to know also, now that we're talking about the bit about the creative process, I want to know what led you both to create the film.
For me, it was the kernel of the idea came about 9 years ago at this point. And it was when I was first moving back to Nigeria from New York. And then prior to that, I was in England. And I'd never actually, even though my family's based here, we were at boarding school. So you're only engaging with the place, it's, in a kind of perfunctory way, because it's holidays and it's short, and, you go see your friends. You're not actually engaging with the country, despite the fact that there are all the things that are constantly the constant issues we have here, like the power and water, and so there all those things are going on. But it was my first time. It was moving back, and I was doing my national youth service. It was my first time being like having to fully engage with the place, and my immediate reaction was I wanted to leave. I wanted to go somewhere that I was more familiar with, that was more comfortable. And as that journey continued, sort of rediscovering my roots in the country, and actually paying attention to what was happening and to the way it was, to the way it was not functioning. That all, writing. I think Zadie Smith says writing is control, and there's so much you can't control here, and there's so much in life in general that you can't control, but you feel even more so out of control in a place as chaotic and mad as Lagos. So put it on the page, try to put some of those feelings, try to say some of those things that you want to say on the page. That's what filmmaking is, right? You try to make some order of the chaos within and without yourself.
One of the things we always say is, like, in Nigeria, we talk about politics and the way of things as much as the British, in the same way the British talk about weather. Whilst I maybe would have loved to have lent with a more romantic debut, I think a lot of the things that were happening that happen in the film, a lot of the subject matters that we tackle are things that we've just been feeling for pretty like all our lives in various different ways, and this I thought was a great way to get into it. I think at the time that we did this and we're writing this, we were seeing a lot of migrant stories being told by predominantly white filmmakers about people that were sort of like in the middle of the perilous transit across the Sahara and consequently the Mediterranean, if they're able to make it that far. And we're also completely inundated with that kind of media in the news. So having the opportunity as African filmmakers and as people that are from a place where a lot of people are trying to get out, and knowing a lot of people that have tried, and even us with our various, we're both Nigerian passport holders, and we've had to do all the visa interviews and have been denied some, and you know, and I think we just felt like it was important to humanize these people, and to just talk about what is happening, on ground, what's happening in the country. So we've been calling it sort of like an intra-migrational story. It's sort of like how we thought about it and approached it, and we just felt it was necessary given the landscape at the time.
What are the main differences, if there are any, between living in Lagos versus filming Lagos?
I don't think there are actually that many differences. You have to be, because there's just so much that the system, this nebulous governmental system is supposed to provide for you, it just doesn't. So in your daily life, you have to be ready and prepped for, anything. The water, we had an issue here where the water was like, something had happened and it was just like brown for 2 weeks, but we have a big jerry can full of water and you use that to wash your dishes and have your showers and the rest of it. And power has never been guaranteed since before we were born, actually. So these are things you have to plan for in your daily life, and it's the same thing on a film set. You've got to plan for, it's hard to say the imponderable, but it's just a lot of organization. It's a lot of being ready, and it's a lot of expecting anything at any time. Moving around in Lagos is notoriously difficult. The traffic here there's no other word for it. The traffic here is legendary. And these are things you have to think about if it's, oh, let's go meet up for a drink at this place, or let's go shoot, or this is our location. But
yeah.
I don't think there are that many differences, obviously, in terms of what you have to think about, what you have to consider.
Nah.
You think it's different?
I disagree.
Yeah,
I disagree. I think in Lagos, you can't prepare. I think it's also a question about the type of film, right? One of the reasons why Nollywood is the way it is and people make films in like 2 weeks from start to finish, outside of budgetary constraints, is just that lack of infrastructure that doesn't allow you to plan accordingly. You just need so much time to plan to be able to execute things in a certain kind of way. But like improv in Nollywood, not just in the acting, but just even the shooting and in the handheld guerrilla nature of it is a reflection, I think, of this lack of infrastructure, whether it's electricity, as Chuko has mentioned, or water, or constant water, or traffic. So to do the type of film that we did, given as many all the locations that Chuko wrote, which I tried to reduce in the initial stages of reading the drafts, we had to account for that sort of like 5 to 6 weeks of pre-production, going to every single place, getting familiar with all of the people, recreating places where we felt like we would definitely have to have sets, and other places where we could insert ourselves. I think ordinarily you don't have that luxury. I think whether in life or just like at home or filming in this specific way. But as Chuko said, he's been essentially working on this film for 8 years. And I think for us, it was about how do we make or improvise the type of infrastructure we need to be able to execute this thing in a specific way. In Nigeria, you cannot carry a generator around with you from set to set. There are just some places where when you get there will just not be any lights, and you will just have to wait it out or find another solution.
That's exactly what I said.
Is it? I thought you said that there was no difference.
In daily life and in filming, there's no difference. You can't. You can't. You need to provide for yourself, and you need to be as prepared as you can possibly be. And you know which one. You now know which one of us shows up on time and late, because Arie's going to be like, it's half an hour away, and I'm going to be prepared, and say it can take 3 hours, so I shall leave 3 hours before.
Was there ever this push and pull between planning and being premeditative and following the art of improv in that process of creating, either in the back end of like after you're done filming and processing it and getting the movie together and all that, but also within the process of actually shooting it?
I think that I lean a little bit more to, I like improv. I like for things to change. But there's that sensitivity here where Chuko, wrote the script, wrote all 13 drafts, and I was, a big part of all of them. But obviously, like the writing, he was closer. He was closer to the writing. So I was sort of like I was more willing to change things up. But I would say pretty much like I would say as far as what was written is concerned, I think we pretty much stayed true to what Chuko put on the page. But we did change the odd thing here and there day before, sometimes on set. But for the most part, I think there were minor tweaks. But shooting wise, directorially, there were definitely moments where we arrived on the set and it was either, and we just had to figure something out on the day. Or maybe something, maybe for one reason we couldn't shoot in a certain area. And then just had to do it quickly. That was very much the case with the market scenes. I mean, shooting in what is like essentially downtown Lagos, where the market is extremely hard. And on that day, there was certainly a lot of improvising happening with camera. I think at one stage someone got a pineapple thrown at them, but I kind of enjoyed that. I think as someone that's more visual leaning, it was a challenge I embraced. And I think for Chuko, it was maybe you can speak to Chuko. It was maybe a bit harder, especially as he had been living with a very specific image in his head for a long time writing it.
Yeah, with images, it was tougher because you build it in your head and it remains the same. But with words and actors adding words and taking words away, I don't believe in the sanctity of the script, as long as the lines are supposed to communicate something. And as long as that thing is communicated clearly, and obviously with the languages as well, it's clearly and authentically, then I don't really have that's something I welcome. One of the first things I shot in Nigeria was in a language I don't understand. So I think that sort of desensitized me to the idea of script is king and everyone has to say this as it is. So with actors and with scenes and with performance, it was definitely give and take, and there wasn't so much. It wasn't so hard. It wasn't hard for me to let go of those things. But with images and with the way you see things, it was definitely, I definitely had to be talked around to a number of things. So yeah, it's give and take a bit.
Now that we're sort of on that train of thought about, I guess, co-creative processes, I also wanted to know why did you all choose to work together, and what was that process of co-creation like?
Well, the simple answer is we came into the world together, so we may as well, continue doing stuff together. But we actually came to film through very different, we took very different paths here. I was working in a talent agency, and I was doing that, the mailroom program, and I thought like creative producing was something I was going to do. And Arie was working on sets, and he was working as a camera trainee, and he thought he was going to be a cinematographer. But here we are. But yeah, the simple answer is it's I think any creative endeavor is just, it's emotionally exhausting, and every artist in every medium has a support system of some sort, or people that they trust implicitly, and people whose opinions and ideas they respect. It really is impossible to do it on your own. In this instance, that person happens to be my twin brother, and he happens to also want to do the same thing that I'm doing, and it's just, it works. I think, where I always talk about how we're quite literally wired differently, because I'm right-handed and he's left-handed. So it's just sort of filling in the gaps. I think between the two of us, we make half a decent human being, but separately, it's it's all over the place.
Speak for yourself. I'm wonderful. No, I mean, he said it all really. I think also having, we really kind of like planned our film journeys once we landed on the idea that we wanted to do movies. So we literally sat down together, applied to film school together, decided both to go to New York to different schools. So we just have like different networks, and work on our weaknesses. So we chose a school that would cater to the other person's weaknesses better. And we like went and did that, so we've also been working at it, and discussing it, nonstop since we came to that decision over like a couple of like Criterion DVDs that really spoke to us. And also in film school, we started doing short films together and working out, how we would sort of balance each other out on sets and stuff. And also discovered that from making our own films on our own, making movies together was just much easier.
In what way did working together make the whole process easier?
Well, I think we could just be in two places at once, literally. In pre-production, I sort of like took on a lot of the visual responsibilities of the film, sort of building that architecture. So, if you sort of like walked into our production offices and asked where each one was, Chuko would be with the actors doing rehearsals, and Arie would be with the cinematographer, planning the shot list. And then we would come together at the end of the day and essentially exchange notes. Say, this is what I'm thinking, something about approaching some of these scenes. I'm thinking of introducing this kind of language. And Chuko would chip in, chime in, change a few things. And then he would show me the videos from rehearsals. And, I would be like, okay, tomorrow, why don't you try doing this, doing that with them? And in doing so, we also built a common language so that once we got on set, we were totally in sync for the most part.
I also had a follow-up question from a previous question, I suppose. Arie, you talked about seeing a lot of media and film and content that talked about issues of migration, but from a white gaze, right? And I was wondering, after processing all of the other content that was there, and when you come to create this film, did your focus on social issues such as like class, race, nationality, and gender, and a whole host of other identities impact how you shot the film?
I don't think so. I think like the sort of quasi-objective nature of the film comes a little bit from movies that we love and resonated with us, and also I think just because and also because I just felt like a certain amount of distance allows you to take in a lot more. So, you know, I think there are like 4 close-ups in the film or something, or far fewer. And the movies that I love kind of let you insert yourself into certain situations. And I think that's what that was about mainly. Go home and make a film about the people we knew. We would already change that landscape. And just by dint of just being from the place, I think we already knew that there was going to be a certain amount of like, let's just call it personality that came with the film, whereas, you know, the other ones are sort of done by outsiders, and perhaps I felt not really considering the people in the film, but these are the people that we know. So yeah, I think in the making of it, we didn't really factor in. It was more about how do I get other people to feel Lagos like I have felt like Taiwan in the movies of Ho Shashan and Edward Yang, and how do we bring you into the film and have the exoticism of the place sort of wear out or dissipate quick enough for you to just get into like the people and what's happening and like situate you, you know.
Yeah, I think just to add on that, I think it's really, you know, Africa's a strange continent. It's got a history of being this unknown place, and it's got a history of being a place of extremes, and that's what people outside are drawn to and attracted to. And you watch the news, and you see these it's bodies in the Mediterranean and huddled together in immigration camps, and for us that live here and that grew up here, we know what pushed them out, and we know these people, and we know what they've left behind, and they are people. And for the most part, it's been more of I felt anyway, that they've sort of been treated like curiosities, and that's sort of been the history of the continent. It's always been this place, going back to pre-colonial days, where something curious was what is this thing, and people have always played up to that idea of this dangerous extreme place and extreme people. And I just think for us, and it goes back to shooting objectively, and it goes back to also the films we love and watch. The films we love and watch really just portrayed cultures and people as they were. And there's a lot of stuff that goes over our head, because we're not from those places. But I think for us, it was very much wanting to do that for Nigeria and for this part of the world. It's just presenting people living their day-to-day lives. It's just something that seems that there's a massive dearth of. And that was, like Arie said in the writing, that was very much at the core of it. And everything else sort of grew and was added to that.
When I watched the film, desire was a theme that jumped out at me, and you all even incorporated it into the film's title. I wanted to know, why did you choose to center desire?
Well, I think it's that most human emotion, that most human thing. I don't know, it's not an emotion, but that's what we all want. We all want something more. We all want something. And that's very much, I think that's at the center of life. I think desire is at the center of life in all its forms. So perhaps it would only stand to reason that it was there. But obviously it takes on a different shade here in Nigeria, because there is so much that is wanting, just the things that you need to live a full and dignified life. So much of that is wanting. That is a function of an ailing government and an ailing system. That's as well, it's not even ailing, it's failed. That's a function of that. So I think naturally you're going to want more. The two Cap, Mofe and Rosa, just really want to provide the best lives they can for their families, but it's not so much just that, you know, they're not these, it's not a hagiography. They also want the best lives for themselves. And you know, in the film, they find this, you see the small ways in which they try to do that with Rosa. Rosa's very, and deliberately so, we made her very fashion forward and very considered and caring about what she looks like and how she presents herself. And it's a small thing that she can do for herself. With Moffat, it's really actually, you know, he the one thing he understands and loves is fixing, and he wants to do that to the best of his ability. So working in the factory, where again he's not receiving the things he needs to do what he loves doing and what he wants to do, it's frustrating. So I think desire is at the I think it's at the center of all lives, but it seems it's amplified in a place where you just you know, so much is not provided.
Is there anything you want the folks coming in to watch the film here at the Film Forum to know or think about before they engage with it?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah. You know, like one of a really like a dear friend of mine that first that saw the film early on said something that I've repeated many times, but he said the first half of the film taught him how to watch the second half of the film, which I thought was great to hear, because the experiences of a man going through some of the same ambitions back home in Nigeria, and the experiences of women going through trying to achieve the same things are drastically different, and I think that's one of the things I appreciated in the film, is sort of like in the writing, in the writing, when Chuko was doing it and having it chaptered in this way, just made you kind of like made you understand some of the things that Rosa's character is going through as real, and not as like drama or fiction, if that makes sense. I don't, and I'm saying this now, and I'm not sure how I communicate this feeling to someone going into the film, but ultimately, I would love for you to travel to this place and just come in wanting to get to know the people, right? You know, I've also found it very, very interesting talking to my Black friends that have seen the film and my white friends that have seen the film. You know, my Black friends, whether they're of African descent or African immigrants in America or African Americans, have all found a way, I think, of engaging with the film in a way that almost feels like tactile, in a way that's just sort of like that's just like really thinking about the actions that people are taking. And I think, like, if we think of the theater as a space of exhibition, I would like you to come into the film with the permission to use this artifact with the permission to use what you are seeing in a real way, as opposed to seeing it as artifacts. You know, I've talked about this a lot. It's like, I've talked about this with Chuko, you know, it's like when you go into a museum here and you see like a quote unquote African relic, and it's like a calabash, you know, people are just like, oh, what an interesting piece. But we see it as a functional, like a functional tool, an item, like something you use to drink water, something you use to collect money in a church. You know what I mean? And I think maybe that's what I would say. It's like, you know, come in and engage with it, and don't distance yourself from the screen, from what's happening on screen.
I would say, you know, like we shoot at distance. It's quite objectively it's objectively shot in a way. The idea was to allow you to sort of to wander about, to your eyes can wander about the frame and to just take in the rhythms and pace of life in Lagos. So yeah, I'd say, you know, just relax and just let it take you wherever it's going to take you. And if your eyes wandering off to one corner because, you know, oh my gosh, that whatever that dude's there looking, whatever that person's doing looks really cool, it's fine. Like go ahead. We're trying to transport you and draw you into this place in which we're showing there's the stories of the two characters, but in Lagos that's happening 22 million times over. So just feel free to sit back and take it all in.
I also just want to name how, even though I'm not of Nigerian descent, there was something so familiar about the film. And yeah, so I wanted to definitely pay those kudos to you all. And also say to those listening, please go into this film and watch it. It is amazing. You both so beautifully create this amalgamation of different methods and understanding and ways to show how much love you bring to the process and to Lagos. So again, thank you both so much. Is there anything that we talked about today or generally that you wanted to circle back to, or anything that's really on your mind right now?
So, well, first of all, to answer your question, I think the very last question that you asked was a really great one for me to think about. This idea of, you know, what this thing of like, what would I say to someone going to the film? Like, what would I wish for them, or how would I ask them to interact with the film? I think that's something that I'll be thinking about throughout the life of the film here in the States. But I also wanted to add that Kodak will be providing a 35mm printout of the movie, which we hope to start projecting at Film Forum very soon. So you know, I think it's just going to add to the experience of the film and I think experiencing Lagos on shot on 16 and projected on 35, which is great. But it was brought to us courtesy of Kodak and Black Tag, who made this happen. So I just want to thank both of them.
Thank you very much for having us. It was really, really great. I very much enjoyed this.
I just want to congratulate you both and thank you for creating the film, but also giving me and the listeners so much to process and so many gifts for us to go into the film with and give us better understandings. The film is EYIMOFE, This Is My Desire, is now playing at the Film Forum. Please go to filmforum.org for tickets and showtimes. We invite you to follow our social media pages at Film Forum NYC on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And to join our mailing list, you can go on our website, filmforum.org.